The Pittsburgh Steelers have their hands full when they faced the San Francisco 49ers in week 1. And with Nick Bosa returning, obviously all eyes are on the reigning Defensive Player of the Year, or maybe the return of Javon Hargrave, or the man in the middle with Fred Warner. But there's a sleeper on that defense that the Steelers are well aware of that could be a game changer if they don't keep themselves away from him. What's going on, everybody? I'm Noah Strackbein. Thank you for jumping on to Steelers to Go, your daily to-go cup of Pittsburgh Steelers news and analysis. Find us on youtube.com/allsteelerstalkers. Subscribe anywhere you get your podcast. Today, we are talking about the Pittsburgh Steelers versus San Francisco 49ers week 1 matchup that should, on all counts, be a great one. In every aspect, this game has exactly what you're looking for. Solid defenses on both sides, and maybe solid is even a bad word to use because these are star-studded groups. The San Francisco 49ers had the top defense in the NFL last season, and the Pittsburgh Steelers have made enough adjustments this year that you feel they might have the best one in football in 2023. On top of that, you have Kenny Pickett versus Brock Purdy, the first quarterback taken in the 2022 NFL draft versus Mr. Irrelevant himself, the last player taken in the 2022 NFL draft. Both have led their team to new heights, I would say. And Brock Purdy took an already great San Francisco team and said, hey, look, I'll just make it better. Took it to the NFC Championship game. And if he didn't get hurt, there are still controversy and still questions about whether or not they'd end up in the Super Bowl. Meanwhile, the Pittsburgh Steelers are so confident in Kenny Pickett and what he has done in such a short amount of time with this team that he has been named a captain in year 2, and that the team, well, they think that preseason success, that 158 QBR, that perfect 5-for-5 touchdown drives can translate into the regular season. But you go to the other side of the ball, and that's where the stars are. You look at Nick Bosa. You look at TJ Watt. You look at Javon Hargrave and Cam Hayward and Fred Warner. And for the Pittsburgh Steelers, hopefully one of their 3 inside linebackers. And then you back up to safety and you have Minkah Fitzpatrick versus Talanoa Hufanga. I hope I said that name right. But there's a sleeper. And that sleeper in San Francisco has been overlooked for a season now. He's only been there for 2 years, 1 year. This is his second. And has quickly become a very dynamic and game wrecker part of the 49ers defense. The Steelers are aware of him. And I knew they were aware of him when Kenny Pickett said this when I asked about what makes the 49ers secondary so dangerous.
Experience. I think, they have great experience. They play with a lot of aggressiveness, intensity. Come up in the 29 comes up in the run game and he'll hit you. And they got great cover guys on the corner and a vet safety that's been around for a while and it's had a lot of success. So, really good team, top down.
I smiled when I asked Kenny Pickett that question because the second that the word veteran came out of his mouth, I knew exactly what he meant because he knows as well as I know who the secret weapon is for the 49ers. And I've asked others in the locker room, and we'll get to Deontay Johnson's comments on it here in a second. But the Steelers, Pittsburgh knows that, yeah, Hufanga, he won the All-Pro. He was the guy that in his second season has exploded onto the scene, a guy that has worked with Troy Polamalu and has become everything that he hoped he'd become out of USC, and a very, very dangerous player for the 49ers, obviously. Somebody that the Pittsburgh Steelers, of course, have their eyes on, much like they do Fred Warner and Nick Bosa and Javon Hargrave. But there's another name, and that name is Gibson, former undrafted free agent, rookie. Can you even say that when you're 12 years in the making? Played for the Cleveland Browns, played for everybody else, it seems like, as a journeyman through the NFL, has always had success everywhere he went, and then ended up in San Francisco in year 11 and has made the most of it. This is a guy that has 32 interceptions in his career, who is coming off a 5-interception season with the San Francisco 49ers just a year ago, who has developed even more this offseason into a bigger role with the team, and who should be a very scary and dangerous player for that defense all season long. What makes him great? Well, Deontay Johnson answered that one for me.
Just the way he played the ball. Yeah, he played the post real well. You know what I'm saying? Don't let the ball get behind him like that.
Yeah,
that's the type of player you need back there. So, you know what I'm saying, when we out there, we gotta obviously respect. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Whoever it is, him back there, because you know what I'm saying. Like I said before, he plays the post real well. So we got to pick and choose our, I don't want to say pick and choose our moments, but just be smart about throwing the ball down the field. Or if he's off the hash to a certain side and we're trying to get that ball over there, so just kind of be conscious of that.
The scary part about Gibson when it comes to the Pittsburgh Steelers is that is exactly what they need to avoid. They can struggle running the football from time to time. Not all the time and not throughout the entire game, but if they go a drive where they aren't able to gain many yards on the ground, you could overcome that. You could overcome a couple of incompletions. You could overcome a field goal or a couple of field goals in this game. What you cannot do is turn the football over. And the Steelers, by all accounts, have to avoid turning the football over. And obviously, Nick Bosa is a scary man if he gets to the backfield. And I would imagine that he does. I don't know how 2 days of practice makes any difference, because I would imagine that he's been practicing every single day, that he hasn't just sat around waiting for a record-breaking contract without preparing for the regular season. So I expect him to be ready to play. I expect Javon Hargrave to have a little extra juice coming back to Acrisure Stadium for the first time and wearing an opposing jersey and being able to get to Kenny Pickett. And he laughed. He said it on Cam Hayward's podcast the other day that his favorite sack last year was the strip sack on Kenny Pickett to end the game. He's got this one circled. He's had this one circled all offseason from the second that he signed in San Francisco. And Fred Warner, man, Fred Warner. But what Gibson could do is turn the ball over and come up with interceptions. And he does it very, very well. I spoke to a 49ers insider, and he said Gibson's the scariest player for the Steelers, that he is the guy that could make or break this game. And he said it before I even brought up his name. I just asked who is the secret weapon for San Francisco and how do the Steelers go about avoiding him. And he said you can't avoid him, but the secret weapon is Tashawn Gibson. The Steelers win this game if they keep the ball on their side and score touchdowns. You obviously have to score points against San Francisco. They know how to score points. But their defense is so dangerous that it's not going to be easy. You're going to have to control the ball. You're going to have to be as smart as possible when it comes to the play of Kenny Pickett and Matt Canada's play calls. And Gibson makes things very dangerous, because if he comes up with one pick, that could be the deciding factor in the week 1 outcome. It could be the difference between 1-0 and 0-1. And I'm going to be real with you guys. I think that the 49ers don't walk out of here victorious. I think that they come to Pittsburgh and they lose. And I think that the Steelers' hype is very real, and that everything that this team says, you should believe. Deontay Johnson said it the other day that, yeah, of course the Steelers could be a Super Bowl team. Why wouldn't they be a Super Bowl team this season? I think you have to agree with that one. But it starts in week 1, because there's actually a chance that you face the 49ers in the Super Bowl if that's where you end up at the end of the year. And you got to be able to beat them right now. And that starts with playing safe football. And by safe, I just mean secure. Don't turn the football over. Control the rock. Make their defense tired, much like every team in the league made your defense tired a year ago. And don't let Matt Canada screw things up. And so far he hasn't. And that's a good sign. And I think right now my faith is in Matt Canada. But Kenny Pickett, who also has my faith, needs to avoid Gibson and needs to avoid turnovers. And you could do that with Ward, and you could do that by somehow avoiding Bosa if you could try. But you can't do that if you throw it in the area of Tashawn Gibson. That's the 49ers' secret weapon. That's the Steelers', I don't want to say scariest, because Nick Bosa is clearly the scariest, but that is the guy that could ruin this opportunity for the Steelers. They know that. I know that. Now you know that. I think the coaches all know that. There's no hiding what Gibson can do. The Steelers are well aware of it, and if they could avoid him, they'll probably win this game. If they could avoid Nick Bosa, they'll very likely avoid this game. If they could just play safe football and control and manage this game, I don't know how they lose.